Spring Cleaning Edition, Doge, how about them Eagles, and developing leaders. These are all the topics we're going to talk about today on the Richard Neese Podcast.
We believe in all the F words: faith, family, football, and fitness. Check us out on the Richard Neese Podcast every Saturday morning on WKUF.
Please subscribe. Please help us out by growing the channel. We want to help good people get to a better place. Hey everybody, Richard Neese here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Richard Neese Podcast. I'm so excited to be back. We had kind of a 2-week hiatus. We took off last week. If you were listening to the radio, you heard Captain Potter talking about mental health awareness. I was actually visiting with Captain today. We were talking about some big goals that they have coming up with their new nonprofit and lots of cool stuff. But lots happened in the last 2 weeks, Dominic. I mean, we got all sorts of stuff going on in the government and football, in our personal lives. You know, I've got a lot of stuff going on business-wise. I'm excited about talking today.
Absolutely. So Dominic Gill, owner of Social Media Visual, part-time co-host of the real estate rundown.
It was the rundown.
The Richard Neese Podcast, still old habits, still have a hard time of dying. For those of you on the YouTube world, please like us, please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to grow this thing out and help more people. We want to help more good people get to a better place, no matter how we can do it. If we can share our little experiences and our struggles and to help you to get some tidbits, make it better, then this whole show's a success. We want to help you grow.
Absolutely. We want to get more engagement. We want to find out what you guys want to hear about. We want to give some of our experience from bring on guests that can address the things that you guys want to learn about, know about. I've got folks that want to come on. It's just a matter of getting them up here, coordinating, and we're excited about the future of the show, but we're always looking for more feedback, more reviews, comments, things like that. So please engage. A lot of the stuff that's going on, Dominic, right now, I'm sure Doge. I mean, Elon Musk and President Donald Trump have dominated the headlines in pretty much every channel that I'm watching. I think I saw on Nickelodeon something about Doge. I mean, it's getting crazy the way that they're projecting it from both sides. I never thought somebody would be upset about cleaning up wasteful spending. It's just absolutely insane.
Well, it depends on who's wasteful, what the money's being wastefully spent.
It's not wasteful to them, right?
Right, exactly. We're basically robbing, in their minds, robbing them of their little income, their little side hustle. Now they actually have to go and struggle and find ways to actually create an income for themselves. So yeah, they're going to go down.
Value, is that what you mean?
Yeah, the basic stuff. The basic concepts of economic success is to go and be a problem solver and add some kind of value in the marketplace.
Sure.
So apparently they had no value in the marketplace because, what was it? It was like $18 million for 30-some subscriptions to a magazine.
Yeah.
It is, it's insane.
One of the Obama girls was a pen pal for $3 million a year for like 15 people.
Yeah.
And the bad thing is how much is true, how much is fake. Obviously, probably 10% is fake, or 10% is real and 90% is fake that we see on a regular basis. But this is coming straight from the horse's mouth. I mean, Donald Trump and Elon Musk are openly putting this stuff out there. I think shining a light's important.
Well, and again, we both have experience in the real estate industry, and we see the stuff that we're not supposed to talk about happen a lot behind the scenes between certain parties that are involved in the transactions.
Sure.
And so I can easily see whenever you escalate that to a much larger scale, dealing with much larger budgets, obviously that's going to happen whenever it happens at such a small level. Here in Coleman, Alabama.
Well, I mean, what we're talking about is fringe stuff, and what they're talking about is it was fringe 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And they said, the hell with it, we're moving on to this next thing, which we're going to continue to blatantly disregard whatever's going on, which is insane to me. Like, I guess I've been exposed to this probably more than you have, Dominic. I worked at Redstone Arsenal for several years. I've got family members that work at Redstone. And what I'll tell you is there are a lot of good, smart people that work there, but there are probably 50% that work there. And I'm throwing out numbers. I'm going to have some haters on this. 50% that work there could be removed, and there will be no decrease in efficiency and effectiveness.
I believe more than that right now.
And what Trump is pushing right now, and I saw Elon said something about for every 4 people that take the early buyout, they're only allowed 1 person to be hired back for that job. So that tells me that you're only working at 25% efficiency. And the people that are really good at Redstone and government jobs typically do 2 and 3 people's jobs. So what that's telling me is completely, we can disregard those positions completely. And you're talking about billions and billions of dollars. And somebody that wants to tell me, oh, that's only 1% of the budget. Well, they just started. I mean, how much can they truthfully get?
3 weeks in. We're 3 weeks in. 1% in 3 weeks. That's
I think that's pretty good. That's 365%, right?
So across 4 years. I mean,
Well, I mean, and the insane part is you start looking at how that's broken down. It could literally stop inflation if we cut enough of the fat. If there is that much fat, it could stop inflation and reverse it to where we get back to pre-COVID numbers, where we can start actually seeing growth in our economy again, which is pretty insane. I guess my struggle is, like, I was listening on this station that we listen to. I think it's at Buck and Clay. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
So Buck and Clay, which is a conservative show, and I always
Clay Travis, Buck Sexton.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So they were talking about just all the waste that's going on, and they said, and I really believe this: if Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, went in and started helping Barack Obama or Joe Biden or whomever it is, a Democrat president, clean up the budget, I don't know how. I doubt that I would be fighting that.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So to me, looking at this and saying, oh, it's a bad thing for us to look at our books. Well, why? And if you want to go a step further and say, well, why does Elon Musk get to do that? Well, how about he hedges that? Because he's not actually firing anybody. I'm pretty confident.
Yeah,
he is advising on this. And Donald Trump is saying, okay, this is the information I'm gathering. And like a good leader, I'm going to make a decision based off of what I have. And it's not like this is his first rodeo. He knew this waste was going on anyways, but he was too busy fighting other things. Oh, like COVID. That was a big part of the end of his term last time. And so what I see in this is that there's got to be some good that comes from it. Now, is it going to be an ability to stir up a base on the Democrat side? We already know that most government workers, maybe not locally, but nationally, lean left. That's just kind of how it's been for the last long time, because you want to protect bigger government, right? I'm going to push for smaller government, even at the risk of hurting our local economy, because I'm a big advocate of, or I guess a proponent of, stop doing these cush projects that come to certain areas, and that's how we define how successful a senator or a congressman is. Oh, well, I brought X amount of dollars to our area for economic development. Yeah, but how about the whole country? Right. Like, if everybody stops doing this pet project thing, and we start saying, does this make sense? Then we stop all the waste. But what continues to happen is everybody else is getting a piece of this pie. So I got to make sure my group gets a little bit of it, a little bit more of it, whether it makes sense or not. It just drives me crazy. Like, where do we start at? It's so corrupt. I mean, they talk about draining the swamp and all these other things, but where do we start at to say, no, we're going to take a stand. We're going to be fiscally conservative all across the United States. How do we do that? And that's the struggle that I have, because everybody gets so excited about Senator so-and-so or House Rep so-and-so bringing $18 million to the Coleman County area for jobs. If it wasn't necessary, why are we doing it? That's my taxpayer dollars. That's your taxpayer dollars going in. Anyway, it's kind of getting off on a rant with that stuff, but it's just...
No, I'm listening. I'm like, preach.
I want to see fiscally conservative. And that translates to minding your business too, right?
Right.
So what I see is, I see a leader in our president saying, I'm going to put the smartest and best people in place, and I'm going to listen to what they're telling me. And then I'm going to execute based off that. Because as a leader, you have to take the punches. You have to take the abuse that comes from the hard decisions. But at the end of the day, you're the one that guides the whole ship. And you've got to listen to the people that are under you. Otherwise, why have them? That's what I get to. Why build out that cabinet? And Dominic, that's something that I had on my New Year's resolution last year that I didn't complete. And it's always a work in progress. What are your thoughts on having a life cabinet? And in the sense of Donald Trump as a president has his cabinet, his people that are experts in all these fields. Do you see that as being something that every person should strive for or should be able to achieve, is have their own set of advisors in different areas? Finance, faith, family, that football, all those things.
Yeah, right. I do believe to a certain point, but I also, and on the same line, I believe in that life should be fulfilled, and you should fulfill yourselves. That you should try just to be as independent as possible in order to go and fill those parts of your life so that you could be self-sufficient.
Yeah,
but within reason.
No man is an island.
No, right. So I guess what I'm saying is that I do believe that it's good to go and always have advice and have people that you pull in from for advice in those areas, and make sure that you can tune into that. Just like with me and you, we have those talks too, because we sat down and I'm just like, hey, look, I don't have the same type of structure mindset that you have on stuff. I'm not asking you to build that structure for me. I'm asking you, how do you build your structure so that I can implement it for myself? So I guess I may have misunderstood kind of what you're saying, is like having these people who handle these parts of your life for you.
Yeah. You make the end decision.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I want to be knowledgeable enough so that I can make that decision, an informed decision about that aspect of my life. Now, when it comes down to if I'm dealing with a tax consultant, I'm going to rely on them because I have no real desire to learn about that, no interest. I'm going to screw it up. So therefore, I'm just going to be like, you know what? I'm punting this one.
Sure.
So I do think that there is a level of that you have to have that life cabinet, but you also have to have the ability. You have to decide when you want to play quarterback and when you want to play punter.
Yeah, that makes sense. What I get to is I deal with a lot of different professionals in the work that we do, whether that's an accountant, whether that's an attorney, whether that's a real estate broker. And what I continually come back to, and a lot of people don't really know how to take this, but it's just the way that we live. I want to make the decision because I have to live with the consequences. So I'm going to ask you what you think is the pro and con for each decision, or what a pathway is. And then don't get your feelings hurt if I don't use the one that you think is best, because you're not living my life.
Right.
If you were, then we'd be in different positions overall. And that's what I always come back to. A lot of attorneys have a hard time with this because they tell me, well, this is the law. And I'm like, if this was truly the law, why do you need a million attorneys to interpret the law?
Right.
Oh, because it's an interpretation of the law. That's why. Mm-hmm. So this is a pathway and this is a pathway, and each one has different issues, different pros and cons. And this is what you can expect most of the time. And that's what we really push on with some of our real estate stuff is what is precedent, and then which way does the judge lean in that area? In that region, what is public perception? Because if I come in and I'm more aggressive with something, but it solves a problem for the community, I'm going to be supported by the community in that decision, and I'm willing to take more risk on that. If I'm doing something that's strictly for profit and the community doesn't want that, then I better play by the rules as close as possible to case law. Because if I don't, we're running into a situation where public outcry starts putting you in a bad spot. Yeah. And at that point, you're on not necessarily Facebook, but the poll of public opinion can be pretty brutal, and people are influenced by that. Law enforcement is influenced by that. Shouldn't be, but it is. Local officials are influenced by that. So how they enforce laws, how they enforce real estate codes. There's so many things that go into that. So I want to be able to make the decision based off of your guidance, because a lot of times, especially in the complex stuff that we deal with called life, but especially in the real estate stuff that we're doing, you don't see the whole picture as just an attorney. You don't see the whole picture as just a project manager. And that's what we have to go through constantly. And then at the end of the day, it's my decision, and I have to live with the results, the consequences, the good, the bad, whatever that comes up with. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So when you start looking at consultation, we started with Donald Trump and Elon Musk, but I think it applies all the way down to, one-person business. You've got to listen to smart people, but you make the decision in the end based off of your risk tolerance. I know you've heard me tell people this before, Dominic. When they come to me, they ask me, well, how should I invest? And what should I invest in? And should I do multifamily? Or should I do rental properties? Should I just loan money out to folks? And do you remember kind of the guidelines I usually give folks?
I mean, I remember there were guidelines, but I don't remember.
So here's I ask them, that depends on your risk tolerance. That depends on what you're comfortable with. Because if you don't really like getting aggravated on Thanksgiving or Christmas because of a plumbing leak, you probably don't need to be in the landlord business. It's going to happen until you have so much that you can hire somebody to take care of those things. If you're worried every month about your check coming in, rental properties aren't the best thing for you. I mean, you need to look at something that's more consistent. That look like a CD. You look at something. We're dealing with one right now that we've worked with these people for over a year. They've been late almost every month, and we've tried to help them transition out. And now I'm going to be looking at a total of 4 months they're going to be sitting on my property, even though we've tried to work with them to leave. No extra charge to them. We're just trying to give them a lease so we can fix up the property and sell it or rent it again. And they're going to be in there for another 30, 45 days, and they're already 2 months late.
Yep.
So if that was my only rental property,
Then all you need is a disaster like a COVID, where then they took us out. And then, I mean, that's literally what happened to me on one of my rental properties. The man who was renting it was a couple months behind, and you can expect December. You're going to be late at the very least in December. That if you're a landlord, you understand that.
Yep.
That's the month. You're probably not going to get paid till
or January. Yep.
Yeah, you're not probably going to get paid till February, till they get caught up on their tax. Whenever they get their tax refund, then they get caught up.
That's right, because they have Christmas and all the other stuff that they've been paying for.
Yep. And so I had a guy who consistently was late. You get caught up, get late again, but then he had a young toddler come up with a pretty serious illness.
Sure.
And again, my heart went out for him, and so I forgave several months of rent. Just be like, hey, look, man, I know you're going through a lot right now. Let's just go ahead. Let's get it done. But let's not worry about this. You got bigger issues in your life, because they were fairly serious.
Absolutely.
And so then after I forgave that, he became more late from there on after that.
It happened.
So he from being 1 to 2 months behind, he ended up being forgiven for those 1 to 2 months to being 3 or 4 months behind.
Yep.
And then starts slowly trickling into more than that, not paying his late fees, not doing all the stuff he's supposed to do. I'm trying to work with him and be at the same time a decent human being because of the situation, but that situation's already resolved itself. Now it's time to get caught up.
That's right.
And then COVID hit. He did not pay me a dime throughout that for 8 months. He would not pay me a thing.
So let's be clear on this. You were still paying your mortgage.
I had to pay my mortgage
and the insurance and the taxes.
And
it's incidental. So if something broke, technically you have to fix that.
Oh, absolutely. And so
I know a lot of people like to not do that, but if it comes to health and safety, you have to fix that as a landlord, whether they pay or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and the thing is that during this time, I'm not exactly, I'm not at all well off as a person, single provider in my home, raising a bunch of kids, And, and then I go in there and, we had a pretty skimpy Christmas that year. And then, anyways, we finally got the guy where he was going, we got him evicted, and finally judge said, hey, you got to get out. And so, we had to go and get all this stuff out of the house. And I go into his kids' bedrooms. And this is the thing that got me the most angry of anything in this world. Again, because you're sitting back and you're kind of feeling bad. The kids didn't really have the best Christmas in the world or whatever. You had to kind of cut corners, which at the end of the day is probably good overall as a family to do. But then, they have their little magazines. They tell me write down their little wish list of stuff. And then I see a bunch of items. Like I'm talking, when I say items, there's a bedroom that was piled up. You couldn't even walk in there with just absolute toys.
Yep.
Just piled up. A boat in the backyard. Couldn't pay his rent for, he's almost a year behind on his rent, but the toys are piled up. Everything is just, and I look and I just see all these items that my son asked for, that their kid had.
Yeah.
I made the conscious decision not to get that for him, and it was on his list. Again, I'm not trying to make him like, oh, my son did without. He still was very blessed, but I was like, it got me so angry at that point. Yeah. That all remorse that I've had for the guy in the whole situation.
Sure.
And then we get to court because we had to go and settle for damages. After at the end of it all, I'm super mad. And he's like, man, have a heart. I have kids.
Oh yeah. A long time.
I'm like, I was like, looked at him. I was like, you better. I'm not gonna repeat what I said. I said, you better get go away from me right now before I have an assault charge. I was that mad.
See, it's amazing what people will do once they know they can get away with it, right?
Yeah.
Because they know they can continue to push that out. And then most attorneys will tell you, oh, you're never going to collect anything from that guy either. So it doesn't matter if you have damages or not. I'm going to file it anyway.
That's what I did.
I may never get a dime from you, but I may get the money back that I deserve for keeping that. Anyways, going back to the what's your tolerance, what's your risk tolerance. I mean, that's what's important, engaging what you want to invest in. And that's, I don't remember how we got to that point.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about rentals. Yeah, it's about like
we kind of weaved on that one.
You unlocked a memory. A very, very painful memory.
Well, I mean, we started off with the Doge stuff and what that comes down to. But I see consistently when I was at Redstone, I would see positions where I would ask them, hey, what does that guy do? Oh, he doesn't do anything, but it's harder to get rid of him than it is to just continue to pay him.
Right.
Well, that's because that's not their taxpayer dollars. I mean, they don't consider that it truly is, but they don't consider it that, and they're going to protect that at all cost because that's what they know, that's what feeds them, instead of going out and creating value in the end. That's what I want to see is people earn their keep, us turning into a world where, you're always going to have a percentage they're going to try and get by, do whatever. But I think that what makes us great is the American economic muscle, industrial muscle across the board, and we're not using that anymore. We're just throwing away money across the board.
Mm-hmm.
So what about another thing that's happened the past couple of weeks? Now, I know you follow pro football more than I do. I barely follow it all. I think the Super Bowl was the first game I've watched all year, and I really wasn't watching much of it. I'm an Alabama fan, so we claim Jalen Hurts, but obviously he's got mixed allegiance. But I think he was wearing an Alabama shirt at the Super Bowl press conference, wasn't he? Something like that.
I have no idea.
But did you watch the Super Bowl?
I watched 2 downs of the entire thing. So 100% for me. I watched the whole championship, the NFC AFC championship. Mm-hmm. I was strongly rooting for the Bills and strongly rooting for the Commanders. Those are the 2 teams I wanted to see in there, and I've been split on who I'd want to see win the actual Super Bowl. Both of them lost, and I was split between who I wanted to see lose the Super Bowl at that point. 3 years ago, I've been rooting for the Chiefs. Whenever they get on that run, you start getting those Patriots. Sure, you should flashback. So now, it's easy to start hating on the winners, and I fall victim to that all the time. Is that when people start winning, I want to see the underdog. Sure, I want to go and see Luke Skywalker take down Darth Vader, and so that's the way I feel. But the Eagles aren't exactly Luke Skywalker for me. So for me, it was one of those ones where probably the least interested I've been in a Super Bowl in a while. And I have not been tuned into a lot of them.
So did you catch any of the halftime show at all? Did you watch that?
I saw reels, TikToks and stuff like that of it afterwards with Kendrick Lamar and stuff, and him wearing pants that I got made fun of in the 90s, in the early 2000s, because I'm sorry, those are girl jeans. I think
what was interesting was kind of the symbolism and the background in the halftime show, and I'll by no means consider myself a cultural expert, but there's obvious that there was built-in meanings behind it. I'm not going to dig into it too much. I just like to be entertained, and unfortunately, you have a segment of the population that wants to be heard. They want to express themselves in a certain way, and that's great. I'm all for that. I just don't watch that. Like if I've got to hide the message, there's a problem, and they would argue that if you got to hide the message, there's a problem too. That nobody's listening as far as that kind of stuff goes. But I guess my struggle is I have a hard time keeping up with my own culture as far as what's going on in my scene, as people would say, what's going on in my own life. To understand what rap guys this and another rap guy. I mean, I don't follow any of that stuff. So there was, and then I know there's a deeper cultural thing as far as the Diddy and P Diddy stuff and how they dug into that as far as child molestation and some guy that I don't know
Drake.
rappers. I don't know what's going on with them.
Yeah.
So it's lost on me, and I think that's because I've got my head down, paying attention to what I'm trying to build, as opposed to somebody else.
And that's most people in the world are going to be in that same boat. I mean, I'm in the same category. And again, if they would have had a country music superstar go up there to a halftime show, I would have watched probably even less of it.
Sure, yeah.
Just because of my taste in music and stuff. I mean, honestly, if they come up there trying to make some other kind of pro-Southern message or whatever, I wouldn't care for it either. But again, I'm just, it's not my.
Sports is supposed to unify people.
Right.
I feel like it over the past 10 years, and maybe I've been more aware of it, but over the past 10 years, it's been a dividing factor as opposed to something that brings people together. Whether it was the Democrats and their message they were pushing through wokeism, or I'm in the same boat. Like if they came out and pushed some sort of pro-white Aryan, I'd be like, why are we watching this? This is garbage. We're supposed to be out there, and everybody has different uniforms on, 2 different teams, as opposed to what color my skin is, what I believe, all these things.
It's escapism.
So, that's right. It is escapism. It's escapism. And whether I like it or not, in the sense that I see it as Rome in the arena, the Colosseum, That's what it is. I mean, look at it. It is a coliseum.
100%. 100%.
And we're throwing bread out there, right? We're throwing whatever, and that's what keeps us entertained while everybody else rules our life on the other side. I used to like watching the national championship game, the Super Bowl, because it was the best of the best competing against each other, and I found value in that. I found respect in it. I remember one game, it was the Alabama-Clemson game that they lost several years ago, just 8 years ago, and you could tell that both teams put everything out, everything on the line. Clemson ended up winning the game, but it was just like, oh my gosh, you're seeing greatness on that field. I mean, these men are and everybody in the supporting cast are trying to accomplish this one thing, and I see a lot of respect in that. And so it inspires me to watch that type of stuff. And so the entertainment of or the wokeism or whatever the hidden message is, it pulls away from what I want to do is enjoy the competition. I want to see that part of it. And not everybody's the same. I mean,
I know. Well, the thing is that studies and results have shown that your sentiment is reflective across all of America about any sporting event or whatever. They're just like, look, we don't care about this mess. It's not necessarily something that's a white thing or a black thing. Yeah. They're just like, we just want to watch a damn game. Yeah. Well, we just want to watch it and be entertained by this. We're not here to we're here to be distracted from all that. That's the point of escapism, is to get away from your problems, not be indoctrinated by the same politics that you have to deal with on a daily basis.
That's exactly right. Unifying. And what I wanted to kind of transition to, we don't have much time left on the radio show, but what I like to see is you think about how many people are involved in the football game, starting with the players, going all the way down to the ball boys, the athletic trainers, the coaches, the analysts, all of that stuff. And you have to think about, while those guys out there are the gladiators, you have so much leadership and development going on throughout the whole organization. That's really cool to see. I try and look at my own organization, which is much, much smaller than an NFL team, right? But it's much smaller, but it still has a representation of, we have to have standards. We have to continue to develop the people that aren't quite there yet into the roles that we want to be in for potential, so they can make the most of themselves. And we've been struggling to do that in my own organization because of me, because it seems like I'm constantly trying to jump on to, I want to play quarterback instead of being the head coach. Or instead of being the GM, I want to be the head coach. And a lot of times leaders will cripple their entire organization or team because they can't let go of something, or because they can't be honest and transparent about, this is what needs to happen, whether that's firing somebody, whether that's pulling themselves out of a process, letting their people work. I like to see excellence with Alabama football. That when Nick Saban was running, I like to see excellence with the Chiefs. I mean, what's Andy Reid? Andy Reid's been successful in so many, 3 teams. I know 2 teams for Super Bowls, maybe 3 teams. He's been real successful in the Eagles, the Chiefs. I was thinking he was at one other, but I could be wrong on that.
I don't remember that. I just remember the Eagles and the Chiefs.
You think about the Belichick era. I mean, guys like that that aren't in the front and center, but they're running the whole organization. They're managing egos. They're managing all the resources. It's just incredible to see what good leadership looks like. What we can criticize and not like the team or the players or whatever, but think about how much goes into making that production or that competition be successful for the entire world, not just the United States. You know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff that I start digging into. And that's what I really enjoy, whether it's FIFA, whether it's World Cup, whether it's NFL, college ball. I like to see great teams work together to accomplish something. Rarely do you get to see that on a daily basis, but a couple times a year, it makes me feel, it makes me hungry, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, you sound like for a minute there you're trying to explain, describe Jerry Jones a little bit, the Cowboys organization, on a lot of stuff, but also made me think back, when you were doing that, I was like, there you got someone who's too involved and knows too much, but then on the other end, you got Mark Cuban. I don't know if you saw what he said after that trade, the Luka trade.
I didn't see.
Oh, okay. Someone put in there, it's like, what the heck are the Mavs doing, is what someone said, put it nicely. And Mark Cuban replied, exactly, I would like to know myself.
Sure.
There you have the opposite problem of a Jerry Jones.
Oh, yeah.
In the same city.
That's definitely interesting. So we're finishing up with a radio show on WKUL. We hope that you guys tune into us. Check us out on YouTube. I know that Dominic's been working on other social media platforms. Where else?
Right now we're just doing, we're on YouTube and TikTok again, building out some of the other stuff. Just a little slow go because I'm actually physically building the building so that I can actually go and have a better organizational structure on my end. So things are not progressing as quickly as I would like them to be, but that should start making more progress here moving forward.
Okay, well, great. We hope you guys tune in to our next show. We air on WKOL at 9:30 on Saturday mornings. We're super excited about you guys watching the show, listen to us on here. Also, check us out on YouTube and all the other platforms that we're on. We want engagement, we want questions. We want to know if you want to be a guest on our show. We'd be happy to have you, whether that's locally or digitally. We can do that too. I'm sure Dominic can figure that stuff out. I've seen it done many, many times, so we can work through that. But our main goal is to help good people get to a better place. We hope you guys have a great week.